How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez and Dave Meltzer here, Wrestling Observer Radio. It is August 15, 2018, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. Got a lot of stuff to talk about here today. SummerSlam Takeover, Smackdown, 205 Live, the whole 9 yards. But Dave, let's start with Peyton Royce.
Thanks. So, yeah, I mean, like, the smart thing in theory for me to do is not to say anything. So I'm going to do the dumb thing like usual. So I do want to say I'm completely sorry, which I've said several times, but I am completely sorry. No matter what I meant, it doesn't matter because how I said it was wrong, and I don't want anyone. I know that there's a lot of people who defended me, but I was wrong. I should not have said what I said the way I said it. There's really so much to this issue that I'd love to talk about. And it's like, I feel like I can't because people, are going to twist everything. There is a really deep issue here. And I'll tell you why. As soon as I saw her, Peyton Royce's tweet, I felt horrible. And it's because, she talked about, again, I've been through with people very close to me, with many people close to me, situations where, I believe me, I know from the closest people to me about, women and body issues and what society does and women being judged on their body. And in this business of professional wrestling, both men and women are judged on that. I wish they were far less than they are. And I think I probably made that clear for like 30 years or longer, probably 30 years, at least actually closer to 40 years now. And because of that, it's not, obviously what I meant was something different, but that's not neither here nor there. I'm not here to, I don't want to make any excuses. I felt horrible, and as soon as I saw what I said, and I know that there are people who listened and many who said, like, look, we know what you meant, this is bullshit. But the fact is, I did say this, and I said it in a bad way, and when you are someone who is in a profession like that, that trains very, very hard, and I'm sure eats correctly and everything like that, that any remark about their bodies like that is uncalled for. And it's bad. And, it's, again, when she talked about, do you want us to starve? And it really hit me hard. I was so sorry about that line. I was so mad at myself because, again, I know that, there's the realities of this profession, and those are the things, I hate, and there it was, I was like saying things that I hate, and that's why I felt bad. I felt terrible. I felt terrible all day. And so I don't really, there's a lot of other things about it that, I don't know that but again, I'm really sorry, and I'm not defending it. And when I said, but the funny thing is, and this is going to sound really weird, and I said this, and I probably said this to a bunch of friends today, that I'm really glad that she tweeted that. And I actually put that on Twitter. I'm really glad she tweeted that. Unfortunately, I'm the bad guy in all this. But I do think that this is if we never have another wrestling angle, let's just say, or anything, or judging fit women and thinking that they're not thin enough or anything like that, I hope like some people learn from this. And it's like, I mean, I really do. That's why I said, like, I hope we all learn. And then people are like, no, you're the only one who has to learn. Well, that's bullshit. Because this whole profession, quite frankly, does this. And again, I'm not putting blame on that or anything, because the whole entertainment world does that, and everyone knows that. And I was wrong like they are wrong, okay? But I'm wrong, and any criticism that you want to make to me, I have to accept that. Because, again, that's the truth. I was wrong, and hopefully, believe me, I learned a lesson. Different. I mean, I know what my beliefs are, and a lot of people do. Okay, people want to make me out to be misogynist, and it's just like, so it bothers me a lot. Obviously, that people who don't know me will say that, and if I suppose. Part of it is the timing and society and all this. And, I really hate double standards. And one of the things is like, and again, a lot of people have gotten mad at me when it comes to women in wrestling, because, I have, because of my fandom of sports and fandom of women's sports when I was younger, and just things that, just like when, women in sports who were, and it happens, it's society, and it sucks, but the marketability of women athletes and things like this, and it's so much driven by looks, and I always hated it, that it was more like that for women than it was for guys. And I've always tried to, I don't want to have a double standard, which I don't, because God knows I've criticized guys' bodies a lot more. And I wasn't criticizing her body at all. It came out that I was, but I really, believe me, that was not what I meant. But, anyway, the whole thing is that by doing that, it always bothered me that reality, whether it was figure skating, whether it was soccer, whether it was whatever, even fighting for that matter, it would bother me when it became, a looks thing. And it's like, and it is, and it sucks. And it's always bothered me. And so, like, I hate to be, I'm like hopeful that, like, in this sense, that if everyone will look at women when it comes to these, whether it's pro wrestling or whatever, and, judge them like, fairly, like guys, by ability, by talking ability, and everything like that, it would be a much better place. And it is much better now than it was 10 years ago. It is slowly getting better. And I'm so happy for it, which I've said over and over again, how much better, this industry's treatment of women is. God knows how furious I was. And I was, because there were women fighters, some of whom are that I knew, and I would, and some of whom I didn't know, and I would read on the boards about, their looks. It's like, you can, and you're allowed to, not our board, I'm just talking about like MMA boards. It was funny because there was the treatment of one woman. I don't want to say who it is because it doesn't really matter, but it's someone, and I would always get furious, so freaking furious about it. And so I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of, I know it's not going to change anything for most people, and most people don't even know about this. But, if it's only a few people and they can look at this and go, that, what, they shouldn't be judged as sex objects, even though we know that, in a sense, that's part of the game. But it's the wrong part of the game. And if that sheds some light on it, you know what? I'm like glad in the big picture. If I had a bad day because of it, and maybe a lot of bad days because of it, who knows how this is going to end up. If it's for the greater good, then and I think it is, at least for some people. for some people, for the people who just want to pile on, I mean, especially today, I mean, there's different types of people who viewed it differently, and most of them only saw the thing or the reaction and didn't know the context or anything like that. And so I'm not mad at them. I would probably do the same thing. I would do the same thing. Look, I see people ripping on, again, a lot more vicious than I did or meant to be, or saying things about, women fighters' looks or things like that. I mean, I would get furious. So people that got furious at me, not knowing the whole situation, I understand that. The ones who just wanted to pile on for the sake of piling on, I have no respect for them. It's like, I don't know how many times I apologized today, and this is just another one. And I know people who said, like, you should not have apologized. A lot of people said you should not have apologized because everyone knows this and this and this. But you know what? The way it came out, I should have apologized, and so I did. But it does make things very touchy going forward. There was an angle last night. I mean, the very first angle on Smackdown, and I feel like, what a double standard. You know what I mean? Would there be a guy angle like that? I mean, I don't know. I can't remember one. I know it's heel trying to get heat and all that, but everything's an excuse for that. You can excuse anything. Oh, it's just a heel trying to get heat. I saw that last night, and I wasn't happy at all about that. I was kind of, especially wasn't. I didn't mind the charisma line, but I did mind the beauty line. When all three girls are very attractive and whatever. And I really minded the body line. And that was just last night. I mean, I used to get furious with the Molly Holly stuff years ago. Everyone remembers that. The Mickie James stuff years ago. Some of the Nia Jax stuff this year. I just remember, it's just a few days ago where somebody made a remark on my Twitter line. And it was like something, and it was about Nia Jax. And I was furious. You probably know what it was. Don't need to go through it. And I just said, this, whatever you want. You could say she's not a good wrestler. And we've said stuff about her wrestling. And that's fair game. I mean, every performer, that's absolutely fair game. But I was, I was furious when it comes to that very subject. And I mean, I guess that's the weird part for me, is that, I know what I think, and if anything, like, I'm the exact opposite. And plus, again, going through this, with people, it really hurt me, because this is a real subject, and it's like, I'm sure, Alexa Bliss, I know, has talked about, going through eating disorders. I'm sure there's other women on the roster who have, but both when they were younger, perhaps some on the roster. The pressure's very, very, the one thing is like, there's the standards for in-ring wrestling for guys is probably tougher right now than women, although the gap is closing. But the standard for looks for guys and women is very, very skewed. And that's, and so me talking about that in that way contributes to the bad part, the thing that we need to change. And then so again, it's like, in my own weird way, it's like, I'm really mad at myself for saying it. And like I said, I'm completely sorry for doing so. I can't be more sorry. I'm happy the discussion is out. I really am. I hope it ends up being like a good thing. And for some people it will be. For the majority, I hate to say it, but I do think for the majority it won't. And it's just a Twitter game, Twitter gotcha game and all that. For some people it obviously is. Some people, I like to think that some people who were coming after me were doing it with all good intentions. And I deserve it, so I'm not mad about them. I do think that, in my life, I've always gone with the thing that, again, if you don't believe my apology, I don't know what, there's really nothing I can do. I'm not playing a game here at all. If you if you apologize and you're sincere and I'm going to learn from this. I'm never going to do this again. And my opinions on this subject, I don't have to change my opinions on this subject, even though what I said was stupid and contradictory to it, because, I've been saying this stuff for decades, on the right side. I've been on the right side of this one for decades. I know some people are going to, and it's going to end up happening. It's like people are going to go through, I write 40,000 words a week on this business. And a lot of times, especially in the past, and even now, a lot of it is comedy. It's meant as comedy. A lot of times I go on Twitter, I mean something as comedy. Some people get it. Some people take it seriously. A lot of stuff in the past I write to entertain, because some things are just completely foolish and preposterous that used to happen and still do. There's foolish and preposterous things that happen in wrestling all the time. And sometimes I'm going to write comedy about that. And taken out of context 20 years later, which has been done, makes that look really bad and makes people think, oh, whatever. I don't really know what else to say other than, for the people who, a lot of people reached out to me today. I really appreciate it a lot, especially a lot of women, especially a couple that I really, and I thank them. And I really do appreciate it because of what they said. And they said how much, they know me, or they think that, or they read me and they've read me long enough to know or listen to these shows, actually more have listened to these shows and just, kind of pointed out like, geez, look at your track record. Which, contrary to people's belief, is not bad on this subject at all, despite the fact that some people don't like the idea that I judge women's matches similar to guys. I really believe, and again, this is, again, it's a different thing. I really believe that every woman on the WWE roster, I'd like to believe that they want to be treated exactly like the guys, and I really try to do that. I don't try to do any favors. And that's a different subject. What you do in the ring is fair game for criticism. And again, what I say and what I do is fair game for criticism, and I accept that. And, I botched something real bad. Whatever it was, I tripped and hit my head on the frickin' post or something, which, and worse. I'm not even trying to say that because it's worse because, I said something that hurt people that didn't deserve it. And I hope that anyone who listens to this learns from this. I hope that everyone in this profession who jumped on me for this will, in fact, jump on everyone else for this going forward, and it goes away. And just the other thing is like, the whole thing, it was only a couple months ago, on the Saudi Arabia thing. You know what I mean? It's like, and again, I want to make this clear. I'm wandering into a different subject. Okay. I understand business, and I understand, that was an incredible amount of money. They could have turned it down, but man, that's an incredible amount of money. Okay. If they were a struggling company, I wouldn't blink for a second for them taking it, because you got to save your company and things like that. When you're a very, very successful company, still, I'm sure a lot of people would go, how can you possibly turn it down? Okay, I get that. But I was still upset that they didn't make, I don't know what you do. As far as you can't bring the women there, it's just a different world. But they're doing business with those people too. I understand why. I'm upset that it has to happen. I'm upset someone goes in there and says, you can come here. We're going to pay you a ton of money to come here, but you and you and you and you are not allowed because of your gender or because of your ethnicity. I think that's just a horrible thing. It reminds me too much of the horrible, things that happened in this country when I was growing up, and I couldn't believe, living somewhere else, what was happening in other parts of this country, and I couldn't understand it as a naive child, and it hit me really, really hard. Living in a very mixed city, where you had, grew up with friends of all races on your block, and somehow, and the kids, it's like the kids, for the most part, left to their own devices. I don't feel we had any prejudice, but the generation that came before us, I saw it constantly, and it just really bothered me so much. I'm going on a lot of different tangents here, but anyway, but again, I'm for anyone who thinks that I screwed up, I did. I own up to it. For those of you who think that I shouldn't have apologized, I should have. Maybe not for the reasons you think. This wasn't about backing down or being PC. I didn't have time to think about that when I first wrote the first thing I wrote. I didn't even think about that for a second. Had it been 2 hours later and I had called up some friends and go, what do I do? Bryan, you had been the first person I called about this, right? Normal circumstances. I haven't called you once all day.
Nope.
I did email you late in the day, but I didn't call you once. It wasn't like, what do I do? Or anything. We didn't even talk for more than about 2 seconds before the show went on the air about what I was going to say, or any advice or anything. I haven't talked to really for more than about 3 or 4 minutes anyone, as far as advice on what to do. So this is me saying what I want to say, what I think I should say. It's not been prompted by anyone. If you want to, we'll see what happens going forward. I hope it's a positive. I really do. During the day, part of it, it's like, it's a bad day for me, but I really like to think this is a positive. And some people, it can't be and it won't be, and everyone's different. And I'm here, I really want to be here for the ones who aren't those people, So I hope that, again, when I say I hope that people will learn, it's not like, yes, I really mean it in a way that, the people jumped on me for saying that, I am kind of mad at them, because I owned up to, God, like I said, I owned up to as soon as I saw that freaking tweet. The minute I saw it, I didn't see anyone else from the company do it. I did contact a few people in the company, privately, actually one was publicly, but others privately. And, I feel bad and I'm not going to do it again. And if I do, I'll deserve whatever response I get. I have to judge this business fairly with both the men and the women. That is going to include comments in certain ways that relate to business. And I think that makes it really bad because it's going to, it's impossible for me to now say that I'm not going to be gun shy. And the worst thing for me in my role is to be gun shy about my real opinions of the business, and I don't want to be gun shy. I want to give you guys my true beliefs, my true opinions, my business analysis. And I wish that looks of guys and looks of women had no place in my business analysis. I really wish. I would love to judge people on their verbal abilities, on their in-ring abilities, physiques at the level of, what's the word I'm looking for? The level of natural, maintainable, legitimate, as opposed to unnatural, unattainable, or hard to attain for a normal person. You know what I mean? Like when I see people like on guys, okay, it's like I spent my whole life in the gym, until I was 40 years old. Now I don't. I stopped when I had my my first son, And now, last couple of years, I've kind of gotten back into it. But I mean, my whole life was in there. And I know the difference between natural and real. And when I see guys go like, Bryan, you see this all the time, where someone will look at somebody who doesn't look like Mr. Universe or whatever, right? And they'll look at him and go, oh, that guy must never lift weights. And I look at him and I go like, he looks like everybody in the gym I know, or not everybody, but he looks like half the guys in the gym I know who train very hard, probably eat decently well, and that's their genetics. It's not like, it's one thing when it's a guy who's, again, like can naturally improve his body and is super talented and has held his own career back or whatever because of that. God knows we've talked about that on certain guys over and over and over again. One of my best friends, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's fair game. And it should be for women as well when it comes to a certain degree. Okay. But when it comes to people who clearly train hard, eat right, are in great shape, whether it's a guy or a girl, don't knock their bodies. I know, like, I see a guy with a fit, natural body. Let me just say, because the name pops up, okay, The Miz. The Miz is like got a really good physique. I'm sure he trained. I look at him, I go, the guy trains hard. Does he look like Mr. Universe? No. It's a good physique. People go like, oh, he should lift weights. It's like, fuck, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure this guy's lifted weights for years and years. It's part of the profession. I don't mean to pick on him, but his, him and Daniel Bryan are popped in my mind because of the segments last night. So when it comes to like either one, like, I think that like everyone should hopefully be able to judge these guys on their efforts when it comes to stuff like that. They are fair game. It is a cosmetic business, but don't encourage unnatural stuff. And I certainly hope that I never do that. So, and I wasn't, believe me, if anything, I was trying to do the opposite, but it came out completely ass backwards, and I look stupid because of it. And I know some people understand what I was saying, and you know what? Even the ones who do and defended it still shouldn't have said it. Still was a mistake. Absolutely. So, do you have anything to add on this? Do you have anything to ask me questions on? Do whatever. I mean, I'll talk about it, but I've gone around in circles. This has not been one word. Not one word of this has been pre-planned. I told myself today I'm going to go on the show, and I'm going to talk for 5 minutes. And here we go. Here we are.
Yeah. I have nothing to say except for one thing, which is that if Dave or myself, and this isn't even about the story today, this is about anything, if we say something that is stupid and you'd like to...
And I promise, we will many times. You don't talk for hours and hours and hours on... a forum like this every single week, 52 weeks a year, without saying something stupid. I mean, it's going to happen. We're going to be wrong, and we're going to be stupid sometimes. And I'm try not to be. The
point is, if we say something stupid and you're upset about it, then I don't even know how to say this. I was looking at Twitter today, and not for one moment on that show did either of us say that Peyton was fat. Nor did we say that she was ugly. And do you know how many tweets I saw today that were so upset at you and me for calling her fat and ugly? And I was like, listen, Dave said the wrong thing, okay? So if you're unhappy about what he said, you're more than welcome to address that on Twitter. But she even put a clip of what you said. And there were still people that didn't even bother to listen, but they were all over you for calling her fat and ugly. That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
Completely.
Nobody said that. Nobody thinks that.
No, not at all. I feel like, and it's funny because it's like, I feel like at my age, as weird as this sounds, like if I was 20 years younger and I talked about women, I mean, I guess in my position, I shouldn't say, oh, like she's attractive or whatever. And again, like, I mean, I remember like growing up. I mean, this again going. I'm probably gonna do a whole show on this now. Okay, anyway, when I was young, I remember it was Katarina Witt, right? The skater. Do you remember her?
You're asking me?
Okay, you don't know Katarina Witt. She was from way back. So well, what was it? The tennis player, Anna Kournikova. Okay, and I would just see that they would get, I mean, and it's funny because, like, Jesus Christ, I mean, who was the first, one of the first people that pushed Gina Carano in women's fighters? But it was Gina Carano, who was an extremely pretty girl, as opposed to Tara LaRosa, okay? But that was because she drew ratings, and I knew that there was potential in it. I knew the marketing aspect. I knew that she, before anyone, but the first time I saw her and, backstage, and I could see a charisma in her, I knew that there was something in her, from a business standpoint. I mean, that was sort of the realities of business and everything like that. But so anyway, I used to hate reading about Katarina Witt, the skater, the skater who was, because it was like, it was always male sports writers writing about her looks. You know what I mean? And I just thought, you're covering a sport. You know what I mean? And it's like, I know that in business I've written certain things, and I know that I certainly allude to having a good look because it is part of the business. It's part of the marketing thing of it. But when I'm like judging a match or judging a sport, like I don't, it's like, I think that can I say that Ronda Rousey, God knows she got, her look was a huge part of her success, as far as that's why she was what she was, and Amanda Nunes is what she is. Okay. And it's wrong. And I, I point out the business. That is my job, to do that. But when I'm covering the sport itself, when I'm covering the match itself, I actually ripped on Ronda's ring attire but it's not because it wasn't a matter of sexy or anything like that. It was because I thought that it didn't make her look like a star, and that's so important in this business. And she is a star, but it wasn't about like, oh, do I want it revealing? It wasn't revealing or non-revealing. I don't care if it's a full bodysuit. I just thought she's a star. She should be. I know that they want her to look like a fighter, a UFC fighter, and everything like that. But it's professional wrestling, and I think that you want, to have cool looking attire when you're a cool looking superstar. So that's what I said about Ronda just in the last couple of weeks. But if I'm like writing about the match or writing about the fight, and I'm start talking about, a woman's body or legs or whatever, that's wrong. That's just wrong. And I really have tried not to do that. I really try, even in like the simplest things. I always, it's like I always try, like, treat it fairly, treat them like guys. If they have a great match, geez, one of the it's funny because people will go, well, you this and this and this, you don't like women's wrestling. It's like, I was a fan of women's wrestling at a time, at a level when you weren't supposed to.
I don't know if we should spend time like addressing all of these comments from people who obviously don't listen to anything or read anything that you write.
You're true.
I'm positive everybody listening to this right now that is a paying subscriber is well aware that you do not dislike women's wrestling.
No, I want it to be the best it can be. I'm happy that it's evolved to the point that it has. I'm thrilled that it has. I'm thrilled for those women. I love that they're getting a fair chance, that there's spots open for them, that they don't have to do what they had to do 15, 20 years ago. which I did make fun of constantly, okay, because it was preposterous. And now people will look at that when I was making fun of it and try to say, you know, like label something, you know, it is. I was doing comedy, and I was trying with my comedy to say this stuff is preposterous, and it's bad for images of women to put them out there where the only reason that they are here and they are only, you know, is because of, you know, eye candy for guys, you know, for young males type of thing. And that's the only reason that we have them here. And I hated that. And what we have now is so much better. And I'll argue that one to the death. And it's going to get better in 5-10 years from now. It's going to get even better. And that's a great thing, you know? So anyway, I hope that some people think about all this and it's a benefit. I'm sure some will. I'm sure some will try to like decipher and pick on something that I said right in here that was unplanned, that I stuttered over because I didn't plan this or write it out or think about it ahead of time. And if you want to do that, you know, I'm a public figure. You can do that. That's fine too. But anyway, I like, you know, and the only thing I can say is like, hey, you know, I really did. Again, I hope in the long run, this is all for the best. And, you know, for some people it will be, for some it won't.
Let's talk about Smackdown. What did the go home show?
Oh, geez. Okay. So like the very first segment, right? You know, I can't even talk about it. Except
I'll talk about it. The very first segment on this show was all about how Carmella was telling two other girls in the ring that she was way hotter than they were, and that she was a diva and proud of it, and that she had a far superior body.
Yeah, now that really sucked. Can I say that?
That's what the storyline was. And then later in the show, Mandy Rose came out, and every week that she comes out, she's wearing a smaller pair of shorts.
Yeah, I you know what though?
That's a factual statement.
That's a factual statement. Okay, the thing I got to say about Mandy Rose, okay, is that you know, I have seen clips of her training, and that woman trains really hard, and I respect that. I respect that a lot. And I watched in the match that she had, like, you know, she's new at this, and I remember the first time when I saw, I mean, you know. When the first time I saw her at an NXT show, I mean, she had something. I go like this, you know, you look at someone and go like, and look as part of it, but it was movement and athletic ability, because God knows, I mean, there's a million great looking women in this world that you could put them in a pro wrestling ring and people will say, oh, they're great looking, but they're not going to go anywhere, especially not today. But when I saw Mandy Rose, the first time I saw her in NXT, I thought, you know, overall, I remember it was Mandy Rose, and I think Sarah Logan was her partner, who I thought was a hell of a worker, you know, and was surprised when she got called up, and was really happy that she did, because she really was like just timing and placement and everything. She was really good, and Mandy Rose was she had the charisma, and she threw a great drop kick. She did. You watch her, like the tools, like as far as like someone who I think like in 2-3 years of this is going to be like really, really good. I think that she's in that category. I could be wrong. So, but anyway, yeah, I mean, it is funny because again, it's like, I mean, they do to an extent, there is an extent of like Kevin Owens where they do make fun of him. But then again, you know,
they did a whole storyline making fun of Nia Jax.
Okay. With Kevin, you know what though? It's like funny because with Kevin, who's you know, obviously like a fantastic talent, and it's part of being a heel and all that. But you know, I mean, God, I'm going to go through. Vicky Guerrero's name just popped into my head. I don't even want to start on that because God knows where that's going to lead me. But to an extent with Kevin, I do want to say that like there's see with Kevin, I can, you know, who again, you know, I'm a big fan of Kevin Owens. Obviously, everyone knows that. There is the criticism in the sense of you're a professional wrestler and I am going to guess, again, I don't know Kevin's metabolism and everything like that. And if he's trying like really, really hard and this is just the best that he's going to be, or if it's that he doesn't eat well and he's just got the idea that I'm so good, and he is, that, this is how I have fun in life, and God bless him. You're entitled to it, and people can say something. But Ashley and Rebecca, God, you just, look, they train hard. They are athletes. You know what I'm saying? So when you're knocking that, man, it's so funny because this is my thing last night, right? And I said, like, now I can't even talk about it. And I just did. But yeah, it the very people, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Oh God. What a weird world this is. But yeah, I don't think that those storylines where you have a large, I know it's like the heel getting heat and heels, we can't water down wrestling so much that heels can't even get heat on anything. I mean, it's like, and again, the lines always change as society changes. But yeah, okay. So anyway,
rest of the show.
I really liked the Daniel Bryan Miz stuff because at the end I wanted to see the match. I think that the one thing, it was really interesting because it was like, 8 years ago when they started, obviously they weren't planning on doing anything past maybe like one match at the end. And I mean, one of the things, it's like that came out, I'm watching this thing, and again, the NXT season, they made freaking Daniel Bryan, he went 0-10. Do you realize how much the people in charge hated the internet fans, ROH fans, to take the best wrestler by far on that show and have everybody beat him down, so he wouldn't win, so people would think badly of him? And of all those guys on that show, who ended up being the biggest star? By far, with nobody even close. The one that they thought, you know what I mean, had no potential, that they beat every single time. It's unbelievable. So that was like an interesting thing that I'd forgotten about when it comes to Daniel Bryan. But then the way, again, it's all part of the story that they did that pro and rookie thing deal, and it leads to this match. I mean, it didn't lead to this match now, but then the Talking Smack thing obviously was the catalyst of everything. And, Talking Smack thing was it was freaking great for Miz's career. His performance on it was great. It was a semi-shoot. I mean, it's like the one part, of course, that never gets said is that, the guy wanted to leave for the whole time. He wanted to leave. He wanted to work elsewhere. They wouldn't let him. And it's, you know what I mean? And it's like, I guess to explain that they had, the storyline version is that, yes, he wanted to leave, but he had promised Vince McMahon he would fulfill his contract. I mean, it's like, it is storyline and all that. I mean, the facts of the matter are what the facts of the matter are. So I kind of was a little bit, whatever. It's like, it's storyline though. But man, they're coming really close to reality. And I think that one of the things with Daniel Bryan was when Miz is out there and he's saying all this stuff, and he's even sort of half-assed done it in his own storyline. Like, yeah, he knows that I couldn't punch him. It's like, he knows. I mean, it's like that probably really hurt because he knows that in real life, there's nothing more that guy wanted than to wrestle, than to leave, than to go somewhere else, whether it's, and make less money. He was willing to make far less money leaving a lucrative WWE contract because he really wanted to wrestle. And then you rub it in like with the idea that you're gutless and everything like that, which, again, it's on a WWE TV show. And, it can be construed as storyline in the long run. It is storyline because we're leading to this match and all that. So like when they played it here, I'm not mad about them playing it here. It's part of the storyline. They should have. Okay, when it happened, it's kind of a different deal. Trying to think what else. Sanity New Day, pretty fun match, pretty good match. I like the AJ Styles thing with Samoa Joe at the end when so the story there was that Samoa Joe was reading a letter, and it starts out like this contrived fan letter, right? And everything, and then it gets in there where he's talking about how AJ doesn't want to be home for his kids and doesn't want to be home for his wife because he just wants to be a wrestler on the road all the time and all that, which, it's reality-based stuff. Every wrestler, that has a family has, is going to go through that guilt. So it's like a reality-based thing. And that's cool because, reality-based stuff I think is the best stuff. And then at the end, he said that the letter, where it talks about that, like, he gave up on me and the only thing he cares about is the championship. And he wished he never got married and he wished he never had a wife. And then, the author of the letter is Wendy Styles and the show goes off the air. I thought that was, and AJ, of course, to set this up, had mentioned, that he had talked with his wife, Wendy, in his promo before Joe came out. So, I mean, as far as, I thought it was very well written. It was one of the rare times when the show ended where I'm going like, I really like this cliffhanger, like a cliffhanger or whatever, but I want to see where this thing goes. Now, of course, if you remember when TNA did the Claire Lynch stuff, that's what I said at the beginning. And God knows, in the end, that angle did nobody any good. So hopefully this thing, pays off better or
God, maybe they found Claire Lynch.
Yeah. Well, we got to play AJ's wife or something?
Nah. Just play somehow in there.
Yeah. So anyway, that was that. Is there anything else on SmackDown you want to talk about?
Not really. Went over the whole thing with Tom here today. I was entertained by all that Miz stuff. The best stuff was the Talking Smack stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Which hammered home the fact that the stuff they did on Talking Smack was way better than the stuff they did the last month or so with these two guys.
Well, I mean, the one thing that I did think was kind of weird is Miz at the end, right, where he's doing the whole thing about how Daniel Bryan's come back and he's done nothing. It's like that hit too close to home. I almost thought that, like, man, it's like the heel. I know it's to get heat, except it's like, and sometimes I know sometimes the truth gets heat and everything. I mean, he delivers it so well. But I guess it was like too close to the truth because when he says that, the first thing I'm thinking of is not, oh, I hate you, Miz. I want to see him kick your ass. I mean, my reaction is that, like, God, remember how over he was when he came back? And look what they've done in these last couple of months. It's been since April, in mid-March, right? That he got cleared. And here we are months later, and it's just like, there were matches that he was very good in, and I've heard the house show matches he does, tear up the house and usually have the best matches of the night, most nights. So it's like, that's good. But as far as TV goes, it's like, yeah, I really haven't seen that great Daniel Bryan that I know was there. And just because there's been no opportunity to see it. It's not like I'm watching his matches and going, oh my God, he's lost it. I don't think that at all. But it's like, when he came back, it's like, man, this guy should be the top guy or in the mix of the top guys. Right there with AJ. I mean, he's right there ability wise and with anyone and connecting with the audience, probably even ahead of AJ as far as connecting with the audience. I mean, he could be going in there and working a great program with Joe, Nakamura, you know what I mean? Like, and hopefully we get to that, I mean, the cast thing was what it was. and the Miz thing. The Miz thing does make sense. I was kind of like down on it at first. Like, I really wanted to see him with AJ. I really want to see him in the title program. I want to see him in the title. And then at the beginning, he's working with Cass, and then he's Miz. But but yeah. So that was the one thing on that too close to home, I suppose. But Miz's performance, freaking great. And sometimes, I'll go with Miz and go like, he's such a great talker, but I don't want to see the match so bad, like with the Cena thing, where he was phenomenal in the performance, but I didn't care if I ever saw the match. It's like I watched the 3 segments. I thought that the build to that made one of the matches that I want to see the most on the show. Really, I mean, I don't know. It may be the match that I want to see the most. Just, AJ and Joe and Miz, maybe Ronda. Just the intrigue of if she's going to win the title. I don't really want to see Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. I think they may have a really good match, but and they've worked really hard on it. But I think that once that thing hit WrestleMania, or ended at WrestleMania, I think it's just been, feuds have their peak and then you go too long. And I felt that that's what the Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar after WrestleMania went too long. So anyway, like that. So overall, as far as the build goes, much better than usual. And, good on a couple of those angles. The women's 3-way, not so good. Not so good. Hopefully, again, if you have 3 super fit guys out there that are good looking guys, do you really have? Do the writers really script one of the guys to go, I have more charisma than you? Yeah, sure. And that line is fine. It's a heel line, and that's fine. But I'm so much better looking than you. I have so much of a better body than you. They're not scripting that line. So that's the reality of it. And hopefully that they'll learn from my stupidity and never do it again.
205 Live.
Yeah, it was let me see. So Leo Rush and Akira Tozawa, typical 205 Live match, you know what I mean? Well worked, not a lot of heat. Leo Rush won. His ring style, I mean, he is doing pretty decent as a cocky young heel, but his ring style at its best is so babyface. I think he can get over much better as a babyface. Maybe he'll turn down the road and that'll be okay. The Mustafa Ali storyline is that the storyline is that he's suffering from exhaustion, and Drake Maverick, who plays the babyface general manager, and not like Kurt, who's a babyface, but always seems like he's frustrated and being stepped on by Stephanie. I mean, Drake is like the hardcore. I want the best matches. I want the best competition. I don't want stupidity on my show. I mean, it's the Paul Levesque character. There were other guys who were talked about it, but that was always the role he had envisioned in this thing. I think it's a really good role. It's so different from the GMs of everywhere else. It's like, I'm not a fan of authority figures, but if it's the authority figure is going to be like him, I actually think he's a really good authority figure. So he was out there just going like, I made a mistake, and I'm not going to let him wrestle until I believe that he's ready to wrestle. And I don't know where the story is going, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Hideo Itami and Trent Newman, just to get Hideo Itami over his heel, kept refusing to pin. They did a ref stoppage finish. Finish was flat, but I like the idea. I've said it many times. I like the idea of incorporating ref stoppages into professional wrestling. People watch it in boxing, they see it in MMA. And the idea that you're in a submission and, or you're out, you're almost out, and the ref, like the idea that the ref could stop it, and at times is going to have to stop it to get it over. And then you beg for him not to stop it and give me one more chance. and then you make your comeback. I think that's just wonderful drama. And I think that again, you have to educate the audience that the ref can stop it, and by doing that, he has to stop it. And, you establish that in squash matches like this. So I thought that, while the crowd kind of like, when the ref stopped it, and again, and I know that Evolve has done this and it works. They've gotten their audience to accept that, and it's added the drama. And if I'd like to see WWE do that, and maybe this is a step in that direction. Cedric Alexander and Jack Gallagher had a nice match. They're both very good. It was even better. It wasn't like the greatest 205 Live match, but it was a really solid, good match. And there was a story there that Jack Gallagher kept working over Cedric's neck because the neck is what the Gulak is designed to attack. And of course, that's Drew Gulak's finishing move, and he's the stablemate of Gallagher, and he's the one who's wrestling Cedric for the championship on Sunday. And after the match, Brian Kendrick, Cedric won. Brian Kendrick runs in, goes after the neck. Cedric gives him the lumbar check. He's out. Then Drew Gulak runs in and puts Cedric in the Gulak. That's where it ends. Solid build again to a match. So some good builds as far as matches go. It's kind of like what the job of the go home show is. So in that sense, I think that it's a better go home show than most.
Ratings from the past couple of days.
Yeah, Raw held up. It was actually what is up. It was virtually identical last week, and last week was built around Ronda Rousey's first match. So I think holding up is good. It is the go home show. The people didn't know Lesnar was going to be on the show, so the fact Lesnar was on didn't help the ratings. They totally avoided advertising him. So it was up a little bit. Smackdown was, for all intents and purposes, identical. A little bit of change, I think it was up in 35 to 49. I think it was down in some of the younger demos, but overall the same. There's not much to write home about. I mean, the ratings should be good until football season starts. Good by modern standards. The one good thing about being on Tuesday as opposed to Thursday or Friday, Thursday as opposed to Thursday, is that Tuesday you're not getting hurt by the NFL. Thursday, this year especially, you are getting hurt, which is TNA's cross to bear. They're going to be hurt. So, no big news from the ratings. They were normal, range of expectations. They were what they were.
We'll talk about SummerSlam on the Saturday night show, but the lineup for NXT Takeover, which is Saturday, we've got 6 matches actually. One's being taped for a future NXT show. Pete Dunne, Zach Gibson.
Yeah. It's coming. The show on this coming a week from tonight.
Yeah, that's being taped on Saturday. Lineup is
Zach. So they had a match on what was it on the UK show when they did the 2 nights at Royal Albert Hall, I think, and it was really good. So Zach Gibson's a great promo. Zach Gibson's a guy, that I think he's got a real chance to be, because he's a really great promo, and a good worker. And obviously Pete Dunne is Pete Dunne. It's a TV match, so they may only go like 10 minutes or something. I hope that when they do the match is done in a manner where Zach is kept really strong if he doesn't win the title, because I could actually see him winning the title with his, again, it might be good to get it off Pete Dunne, and especially because I think that I think at this point people really kind of know how good Pete Dunne is. At least the ones at that level. I mean, like obviously the big picture Raw fans, main roster fans don't, but you're talking about the NXT fan base, the underground fan base, the ones that are watching NXT. I mean, when Pete Dunne comes out, they think he's really special. So I think that, he can afford to lose and everything. I don't know if that's the plan. I think it's probably not, but wouldn't, if they did that, it wouldn't surprise me. And I think it would actually, a change there might be good.
Rest of the show for Saturday, Shayna Baszler, Kairi Sane for the NXT Women's title. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano. Last man standing. Probably going to be a very long match. Adam Cole, Ricochet, North American title. Undisputed Era versus Mustache Mountain rematch of the only match Dave has ever given 5 stars to on a WWE television show. And Velveteen Dream EC3. I believe so, yeah. As an actual television match. I think that's the first one that ever got 5 stars.
Yeah, because you know what? Because I used to not rate TV matches. But I'll tell you what, man. I mean,
well, you normally don't rate TV matches, but if a match was a 5-star match on TV, you would have put 5 stars.
Yeah, that's a hell of a match. I love that. I loved parts of that. I love that storytelling. I mean, it was like, it was one of the, 3 best tag team matches I've seen in years. And so unique for what it is. Those 4 guys are, I am so looking forward to this show, which is, it's so weird because, coming off of G1, you know what I mean? It's just like, talk about spoiled, you know what I'm saying? It's just amazing to me because it's like the people who like watch G1 and go, God, the A block wasn't any good. And it's like, oh my God, talk about spoiled. Those A block matches 5 years ago, I mean, not all of them. I mean, obviously some of those A block matches 5 years ago people wouldn't have liked, but I'm talking about the good ones. People would just be going like, oh my God, this stuff is incredible. I'm even coming off of G1 and the great matches they had there, I'm just looking at this thing and I see Gargano, Ciampa, and those last 2 matches those guys had. God damn, those matches were fantastic. The Gargano Ciampa match was, I mean, legitimately, I think that was maybe the best WWE match I've seen in years and years. I mean, if I had to pick like the last 5 years, my favorite WWE match, I think that would be it. The first one. The second one was a little. I didn't like the last few minutes, but because there were certain things that I thought were a little too contrived in the last few minutes. But as far as like up until the last few minutes, it was exactly as good as the first one. I mean, it's like these were 2 phenomenal matches. The tag team match is a rematch of 2 phenomenal matches. I mean. There have been some great NXT shows. I mean, they all are. I mean, as far as like the takeovers, man, every single one of them is great. But I don't think that I've ever gone in with the expectations so high because I never go in with I go in with expectations to look at the matches and think it's always. I almost always think it's gonna be good. Sometimes I go, this one may not be that good, and it usually is anyway. This one, I'm going in going like, this show's going to be the best, like one of the best WWE shows of all time. Maybe I'm too optimistic about it, but I don't think I am. Because I look at those 2 matches and Ricochet and Adam Cole, and it's just like, those matches are, I mean, unless somebody breaks their leg, how can those matches not be great? I know they're going to get time. I know they're not getting shortchanged on time. I know that those guys aren't going to be lazy. Goddamn, you know what I mean? I mean, they're going to go out there and kill themselves. In a good way. And the Velveteen Dream and EC3 match, like I said before, I mean, that could go either way, but I've gotten great reviews of their singles matches. And, Velveteen Dream's got all that charisma. And again, he's 3 years away from being, a guy as good as he is at this level and everything like this. If he keeps improving at the rate he's improving, in 3 years, this guy's going to be like, I mean, he's going to be a special character, even forgetting about the gimmick. Which is a really unique thing that's getting him over. He's got a chance to be what's he, 22 years old, is he? I don't even remember. Is he he's really young, right?
22, 23, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a chance to be a real special talent. And then I hope they open with Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane because...
22.
She's 22. God.
Well, for 4 days.
Oh, he's turned 23 this week?
Yep.
Okay. So Shayna and... Kairi Sane, just because of the match it's going to be, it has to rely on submissions and selling. And that could be hard coming off of a gigantic, fantastic match. Because then it almost can be like that letdown, the come down. And if they were on first, I think the way that they're going to wrestle, I think they can have a hell of a match. I mean, I really do expect a good match. I mean, the Shayna Baszler, the last big show Shayna Baszler match I saw, which was the Toni Storm match, I thought was the best match I've ever seen of her. And, some of it's Toni Storm. Even a lot of it is Toni Storm. But Kairi Sane is a great worker. And, Shayna's great with her gimmick. I think sometimes I think that there's like, I see people like critical of the fact that she doesn't work like everyone else. But I think that for Shayna Baszler and what she's supposed to do, I think she works like she could be a better worker in time, and she will be, right? Because just experience, right? Things get, there's things, you always improve. But I mean, as far as the style and the mental aspect of what she does, the style that she works, what she doesn't do and what she does do is what she should be doing. Like the stuff that like she shouldn't be doing a lot of typical pro wrestling. Her gimmick is that she's a badass heel bully mixed martial artist. So she should be playing and working like a female bully badass mixed martial artist would work. And that is what she does. And it requires a different kind of match than every other match on the roster. And they've done that. They've allowed her to do that. So that's a plus. And, Kyrie's got, Kyrie's really something, I mean, she's got that incredible likability factor. She's a great worker. She's a great seller, which is exactly what Shayna Baszler needs, to have her best matches. And, she's got the ability, if you let her and you don't put her in a bad position, that you really, she connects. So, yeah, very much looking forward to the show.
All right, a couple of the mailbag questions here. This person says, what was the reason for the switch of the top guy from Batista to Cena in 2005? And do you think had the switch not been made until 2006 or later, the crowd wouldn't have turned on Cena like they did? I think a small reason they may have turned on him was because they'd come off Triple H's reign of terror. They felt Cena was going to be pushed down their throats. Whereas with Batista, they already had an organic connection, and he ended at Triple H's reign of terror.
I think some of the Cena stuff, because the first time I really noticed the Cena stuff was when he worked with Jericho. And I think a lot of that was because people really liked Jericho. And I think there was the feeling that Jericho is better than Cena, but he's not pushed at the level of Cena. And there was like that resentment thing going. And then it just snowballed. But then Cena became, the corporate guy. I mean, Dave wouldn't have been that guy. But hey, look, the people turned on Dave something fierce years later. So maybe they would have, I think that there's the thing, again, that I think that they saw that, people had favorites. And they saw that because of John Cena, their favorites weren't getting the top positions, and they blamed it on Cena. And in time, it kind of snowballs and becomes the thing to do. And, I don't know. You never know how like different things would happen. If he never worked with Jericho, does it happen? Yeah, it probably still would. With Batista, when he came back, if there wasn't the Daniel Bryan thing going, would they have booed him the way they did for winning the Rumble? Nah, not at all. Wrong. I mean, it was just wrong. Same with Roman. It was just people wanted Daniel Bryan and they were going to resent anyone else. And then it's just snowballs from there. Who can predict? You change that thing, you change one thing and everything, every aspect changes and you just don't know. I mean, I couldn't give a good answer to that.
Sports here says, what are the chances the Tokyo Dome main event is Omega, Tanahashi, Okada? Or any three-way?
I hope not. I hope not badly. The Tokyo Dome main event needs to be a single. That's all I think it will be. I really hope it's Omega Tanahashi, and this is from someone who thinks the Omega Okada match is the greatest matches he's ever seen in his life. I just think, there's the right time and the right thing, and we have, unless Omega goes to WWE, We have plenty of time for more Omega Okada matches, and we'll see them. I just think that, it's like I look at this Tanahashi Okada match, and I think that if you're going to do the thing where you're going like, we always, the G1 winner always wins his briefcase challenge matches and always ends up there. And one year we have to change it. I can look at this Tanahashi Okada and go, if there's ever a year, this is the year, because it's Okada. Okada's the guy. It's the Tokyo Dome main event. Okada's been in the Tokyo Dome. Okada's been groomed to be the star that headlines the Tokyo Dome. That's what the whole last 2 years are about. And, again, I don't know the direction that they're going. I know that Ghetto's track record's been pretty freaking great, when it comes to feeling the crowd and manipulating the crowd and everything like that. I just know that coming off, I want to mention this too, because I watched the Tanahashi Ibushi match last night again, because the first time I watched it's like 1:30 in the morning. I just wanted to watch it like in real time. In all three of those matches, I've actually the last three night Budokan matches. Did you watch any of them twice?
I didn't watch any of them twice. No.
Do you ever watch Tanahashi Okada?
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, anyway, I actually have watched all of them twice. Like I have the time to do that, but I did. And they were all. This is the thing. They were all much better the second time. Significantly better the second time. And most of the time I wouldn't say that because, you have all the elements of surprise the first time. But the second time watching Tanahashi Ibushi, that match, I've said other matches are masterpieces this year and all that, and they were. But holy crap, that match was so great. I mean, seriously, that was one of the best matches in certain ways that I've ever seen. The performance by both, I think individual performance-wise, it was just unbelievable. I mean, Tanahashi's performance was so great at what he was doing. And, Ibushi's just, just a gifted professional. Tanahashi, it's like when I really, I was always like a year or two ago when he's, banged up with all the injuries. And it's kind of sad, he's not that old and he doesn't look that old. But he's so beat up, right? And you just go like he's going to fade, and he's going to fade to the mid card, and it's too bad when that happens. When a great guy who really helped build the brand and was one of the real most important guys. Everyone gets older and everything, and it was like, I kind of don't want to. I kind of wish that like Tanahashi would have some more good years, and this year's really shown me that he's got some more good years. Shouldn't be the top guy anymore, but can he have a run as the top guy this year? I think he should. And it was, what a incredible performance he put on in that match. And because of that, like, I really strongly believe he should beat Okada. I'm sure that if you would ask me that before G1 and laid all this out, I would say the exact opposite. But that's the wonderful thing about pro wrestling and the crowds and everything like that is that things happen organically, and this one may be organic and it may be manipulative, and it's probably a little bit of both because it was the guy who won the G1 and that was the plan. But when they do, I hope I know with Japan the thing is that they have such long-term laid out plans that they won't switch because it changes everything. So I guess what I'll say is that if their long-term laid out plan is Okada, and that's what they'll probably do, and maybe I shouldn't say switch it because, don't be the short-sighted guy. I said the same thing about Naito. It's a Tokyo Dome, and now with the benefit of hindsight, look at what we saw this year. It's probably for the best that Naito didn't win at the Tokyo Dome. I think not even probably it was. So I hope the long laid out plan is Tanahashi, because I just think that this is, I just have the feeling in my bones watching it that this is Tanahashi's Tokyo Dome headline one last time.
All right, everybody. On that note, we're going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back on Saturday night after the NXT show. We'll preview SummerSlam as well, talk all of the news. I'm on my way to Vegas, so if you're heading down there for the convention, stop and say hi. There's a million cool things going on. A lot of shows on the front page. Observer's going to be out tomorrow. Check it out. And that is it. We will talk to you again after a while.